Окей. Ты понял, Вадик? Заблокируешь, здесь будет пауза. Друзья, последний вопрос, дайте 3 минуты, мы поедем отдыхать. Я тут выпендриваюсь.
Это мы выложим на видео.
Друзья, всем привет! Меня зовут Тимофей, управляющий компанией Продукт, и мы давно обещали всем нашим клиентам и всему сообществу интернет-предпринимателей, которые занимаются продажами своих товаров в интернете, в Америке, в Европе, в Японии, в Австралии, по всему миру, что мы пригласим гостей, наших партнеров, которые являются экспертами по импорту товаров непосредственно из Китая в США. Они делают много работы по всему миру, но в основном они занимаются непосредственно custom brokerage в Америке, они занимаются очисткой грузов, они коммуницируют с таможенными декларантами, они коммуницируют непосредственно с разными структурами в США и смогут ответить на разные вопросы касательно импорта товара, которые вы продаете на разных маркетплейсах непосредственно в Америке. Как их туда импортировать, какие могут возникать вопросы, что если так, а что если вот так и так далее, и так далее. Вчера мы сделали, или позавчера, мы сделали пост в Фейсбуке, получили от вас определенный список вопросов. Также есть определенный список вопросов от нас, плюс мы уже за несколько лет работы предоставляя услугу по перевозке грузов из Китая, из Украины, из России на Amazon, естественно в США. Мы наработали определенный опыт уже каких-то конкретных кейсов, с которыми сталкивались сами. Вот, и мы хотели бы донести определенную информацию по тому, как непосредственно происходит эта процедура, какие есть риски, какие есть ответственности, как избежать тех или иных факапов при импорте товаров в США. Соответственно, я хочу поприветствовать наших гостей, и они сейчас представятся, расскажут, чем они занимаются. Вот. Ну и непосредственно перейдем уже к вопросам. So guys, welcome to Ukraine, welcome to Kyiv.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, nice to meet you here. Met each other in LA like a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, yes.
And basically, who you are, tell about something about yourself to the guys who are watching the videos, what you do, and we go further over there. Yeah.
Okay. So what we do in the United States is we are really partners with Partner Trade. We're licensed customs brokers. We have 10 licensed customs brokers that work for us. We move about 60,000 containers a year to and from the United States. We additionally do other countries as well, to and from China, from Ukraine, and a couple other various trade lanes we call them. So we're very much looking forward to continuing to work with Partner Trade and grow our mutual business.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We have a couple of questions from people who are actually from entrepreneurs who are already selling lots of goods in the United States. Many carriers who are offered to to actually do the job for shipping lines and for the entrepreneurs who transferring, like carry goods from point A to point B, from China to the United States. They split the whole commercial part of goods into the invoices like less than 800, because the $800 is the level of when you need to pay actually the duty for the express. We need to say this for the express shipments, and how actually that can influence if you have the whole cargo that you split up to 5 different shipments, and you ship it each day with the invoice less than $800. Do the customs checking this, or they know that, like they can notice that you're the one who have the whole bunch of these goods and you just split in trying to reduce or actually to avoid the duty itself, like, or that's within the customer can not worrying about that. What do you think about it?
Okay, couple clarification points. So what you're saying is, for example, I'm a shipper and I have $4,000 worth of goods that I want to ship, right?
Yes.
And what's happening is that $4,000 is going in 5 different shipments.
Yes.
Over, right, for $800 each to make $4,000,
exactly.
And it's shipped at different times during the day. So
yeah.
now, is each one of those invoices, as long as each one of those invoices is correct in what the actual shipment is, then it's one shipment, one invoice, right? And it would proceed, and that would probably be okay. What's really concerns me a little bit is if you are going to try to change the actual invoice to make it lower to avoid duty, CBP does not like that, and CBP will eventually pay attention, and there are severe penalties for that. The U.S. CBP is very, very knowledgeable about how these things go, because, right, I mean, everybody has similar ideas, and people are going to try to get away with whatever they can get away with. So the CBP, and they do, I mean, there's investigators for the CBP that look into these types of things. If you're a chronic offender or something like that, or you are caught in any way, they can make it illegal for you to import to the U.S. anymore. So they can basically end your import business. They can go back 5 years and audit every single invoice you've ever done and penalize you for each one of those. So it can get extremely expensive and extremely painful if you are intentionally doing that.
Okay, let's make, as you said, let's make it clear. If I got from the supplier in China 5,000 iPhone cases.
Yep.
Each case is $1 by invoice.
Okay.
And I need to ship it from China to United States by air express. Because actually this is the only way where where we're talking about the line of 800. Because if it's ocean freight, it's absolutely total different story.
It is, yeah.
So we're talking only about the air express. DHL, FedEx, UPS, about these companies. And I split the whole cargo up to 800 iPhone cases. And I have an invoice for 5,000 iPhone cases. I made an invoice, I just split it for each separate, and I ship only one part of 800 cases, $1 each. I have like less $1, like $799. The next day I ship again. The next day I ship again. The next day till the whole my part will be in the United States on Amazon or any other marketplaces. Am I doing it right? Do I get any question from customs or not? Because actually by law, this is the actual invoice. I'm under the line. Do they have any questions to me?
You're shipping it on separate airway bills, so it's each one is a separate shipment, separate days.
So it is a separate shipment. So you're right,
it is a separate shipment. It's absolutely legal.
As long as it's a separate shipment.
As long as it's a separate shipment.
The only thing that the whole invoice must be really itself by the price what is in the invoice, right?
Yes.
So because if, for instance, I can split it in 2 parts, and I'm gonna have 2,500 iPhone cases that I bought for $1 each, and I make an invoice for less than 800. That means that I cut the invoice by price. And here where I break the law, right?
Yeah, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to reduce the duty amounts, right? That should be applicable, and that's what gets you in trouble with customs. You should not be trying to avoid duties that the country requires. So
they pick up on it because they know what the weight should be, what the piece count should be equivalent to the value. So that's how you get caught with
and
the
that is
census
how you get
error.
caught. So the fact that you're breaking up in the shipments is actually smart, because if you took the $5,000 and tried to make it $800 by cutting that piece count and that price, you would probably be caught.
So guys, as we told you already before, а что говорим на английском? I need to switch from English to Russian. Как в принципе мы часто поясняли это, самое важное это не нарушать правила импорта непосредственно на границе с США. То есть не занижать инвойсы. То, что вы бьете партии, то, что вы отправляете экспрессом, если у вас есть партия, которую можно разбить и отправить там, раз в неделю, раз в 3 дня, даже если она разбита изначально, вы купили больше, вот, но вы не занижаете инвойс на каждый отдельный кусок этой партии, то в принципе вы ничего не нарушаете. Поэтому в данном случае все в порядке, вы можете таким способом отправлять. Если это для вас целесообразно, бить ее и отправлять таким способом экспресс. How does the broker defend the customs duty? For example, if the goods can be determined like on both rates, for instance, like 5%, and on the other side is 17%. What are these things that broker rely on, choosing this duty rate or this duty rate, and what are their responsibilities? Because if I am the customer, for sure I would like to have the last one, and how I can influence that or not, and what are their responsibilities.
You can submit an official request to customs for the duty rate. It's called requesting a binding ruling. You could send them a letter explaining everything about it, and if the letter is not sufficient enough information, you can actually give customs a sample, and based on that, they'll provide you with the tariff number and the duty rate.
Is it for free?
Yes.
Okay.
They do also have already rulings in place, so you can go onto their website and see what rulings are there for that product. If there isn't one already made, then you go and you submit your own.
Okay, good. Thank you. What are the requirements for honey products? One of the entrepreneurs is asking, because Ukraine is one of the. In Ukraine, there are a lot of production on honey.
Liquid gold, yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, I believe our honey is really good, much more better than many places around the world. And so we have lots of requests about export of honey around the whole world, especially to the United States as well, because it's a good margin in selling it. So what are the requirements for honey? And I would add any food.
You have to be registered with FDA. The manufacturer has to be registered with FDA, and the importer also needs to be registered. They need to
Importer.
request, yes.
And the manufacturer.
They need to request a DUNS number, it's called. Also, there's a lot of requirements on the labeling for food products. So there's specific FDA agencies that can help to get into more details about exactly how the labels must be made. But
I know
for
about the
customs
nutrition
purpose,
facts
yes.
and all this stuff.
Yeah.
For customs purpose, you have to be registered on both sides.
Okay, if the supplier, for instance, is going to be Chinese supplier, basically lots of stuff go from China to United States, with the cosmetics and lots of things that connected with the body and health, you know, kids, and when people are choosing what to sell on Amazon, they usually try to understand what kind of certificates they have to have to import. They're asking us what kind of certificates we have to. Basically, for most of the products, we already know because we already passed them many times. We already experienced in that. So, as for the FDA, the supplier must have an FDA. Must have the customer for each cargo the FDA certificates. Or he just asking the supplier to provide the FDA certificate for this product, and it's going to be good enough for the custom clearance in the United States.
But the manufacturer side?
Yes.
Yes, you need the manufacturer certificate for the products.
And that's
with
it.
their registration number. But the importer also has to register now. This is a new rule that's coming into effect with the DUNS number.
Yeah. This is for the FDA. This is for the honey we're talking about.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And for the food in general.
Food in general, yes.
Okay. If I have a half container of food, can I fill it up with different stuff and make a shipment like I have a container?
Once you put food in a container, FDA is involved, right? So it's a whole other level of inspection and a whole other opportunity for a hold, right? So you're going to have customs looking at it on one side, FDA looking at it on another side. And you know, if you got the Bluetooth stuff in there, you might have other issues as well.
Yeah, that also goes into play if it's moving by rail or not, or if it's just clearing at the port.
Yeah, like let's say you have batteries, food, like right? I know what you're thinking. Yeah, you got like as much as possible, you want to keep it simple.
Okay.
Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's a good idea. Think about it that way. I mean, and also just with carriers and the way they do mixed loads, okay? Because like they've got like you can move containers under what's called freight all kinds, which you would think that's all kinds, right? But there are specific restrictions in that freight all kinds for a consolidated or a full container. So, for example, like freight all kinds is everything except any type of hazardous, any type of garment, any type of food sometimes, and let's say you can't put any scrap or you can't put any, you know, whatever, used paper or various different things that are specific commodities that have to move, which I can give you actually a restricted commodity list if you want. And as long as you stay away from the restricted commodity list, you can move anything you want.
What is the responsibility of the broker if it clears the shipment under another HS code and then it appears that it's different?
It's different or wrong.
Or something like that.
The responsibility ultimately falls onto the importer. So that's why it is up to the importer to have knowledge about the HTS code. They can go to the broker for their assistance. The broker will provide them with the tariff number. But if the importer doesn't want to use what the broker suggests and they want to go with another way, it's the importer who ends up paying the additional duties if customs goes and issues a penalty.
Okay.
So the importer must also be knowledgeable.
Yeah, the importer is responsible, 100% responsible, okay, for everything that's imported. That's why it's so important to have a good broker who is honest with you.
If the broker
right?
has made mistake, for instance, if the broker advised me like, guys, you need to change the HS code that you gave me because this is not the way how it's supposed to be cleaned.
Right.
So I suggest to use this one. Me as an importer saying, I don't want to use it. You cover. It says, if I say yes, if I say
right.
okay, we can use it, and in half a year the customer is going to come to me and say, listen, half a year ago you've been importing such goods. That HS code is wrong.
Yeah.
What is the responsibility of broker for this wrong HS code?
Nothing, and I'll give you another example on the opposite side.
So, is there any responsibility?
There's no responsibility. That's
Okay.
why it's so important to have a trustworthy quality broker.
So,
because
responsibility of trust to the broker.
exactly, it's on trust. So let me give you another example based similar to
You
yours,
didn't answer the
but
question.
opposite. No, it's 100%. The broker's not responsible.
It's
The
up to
importer's
What I need
always
to answer
100%
to the customer.
responsible. There is no answer. Your answer to customs is, you're right. I should have done it right. What's my penalty? That's your answer.
So
please be gentle with me when you penalize
Please
me.
be gentle.
Right? That's your answer. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, in that case, like for example, if I'm an importer and the broker has made mistake, and I'm the one who is paying for that mistake, that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. You should make really sure you have a good broker who's doing it right. Because here's the other side of that coin, right? And here's what happens a lot. Let's say you're paying 12% duty on something, right? I mean, whatever the commodity is. Let's just say you're paying 12% duty. Broker comes to you and says, "Hey, I can save you a lot of money." Right? You can file it under this HTS code and you only pay 5% duty. So I'm saving you a lot of money, and that's why you should give me the business, right? And you're like, "Hey, that's a great idea. I'm going to save a lot of money, and my broker told me that it's only 5%. Yay, big winner." But then 6 months later, customs comes knocking on your door and says, "Hey, you were supposed to be paying 12% duty this whole time, and you're only paying 5% duty." and you go, oh no, the broker told me I could do 5% duty. And what's customs going to say? That's not the broker's problem. They have no responsibility. You're responsible now for all the duties that you didn't pay. You're going to get inspected. Every invoice that you've done is going to be inspected for the last 5 years, right? We're going to put you on a restricted list, so you're not going to be able to import in the United States anymore, right? And we're basically going to put you out of business. That's what I'm saying. That's why you have to be careful about what broker you're using.
Do they include in the record for the importer exactly the brand, that exactly about this brand is the case? Or because, for example, they can make a restriction for import exactly this kind of product for this importer. If, for example, this brand changing the importer next month, they changing the forwarder, they changing the importer, and they're going to continue working with the same HS code for 5%, not for 12%.
Right.
Do they go under this restriction, or the story starts working the same way like before?
Right. Correct me if I'm wrong, okay? But the name is what gets restricted.
Name
so
of
your
brand.
Company, no, your name, the name of the importer is what's restricted.
The name of the importer.
Their EIN number, the importer number.
There is nothing mixed with the brand or with the commodity. There is nothing mixed with that.
Yeah, and the only way you can start importing again is if you create a new company, new tax ID, EIN number.
Yeah, somebody's passport, somebody's SNN.
And become a whole new entity.
Yeah, that's not the story. I got it.
Yeah.
If I buy goods in China, do you have to provide a certificate of origin at the custom house? And can I write that it is produced in another country or not?
You need to have the certificate of origin from the country where it was manufactured.
Because
it can be shipped from China, and you could put China as the country of export, but you'll still need the country of origin.
Okay. Many customers once make, branding that this kind of product is not Chinese, it's from Italy, German quality, or this exactly cosmetics is a French cosmetics or something like that. But honestly, they're all production in China. If they put that it's not made in China, but it came from China, and it's going to be the product like made in France, what's going to happen in the custom clearance?
You need to be able to provide the manufacturer's name and address. You can't just say made in France. You have to provide who manufactured it.
That's why, that's why the certificate of origin is required. And what that is it's got to be notarized, as you know. So you've got somebody that's putting their reputation online to say this is a real certificate of origin, and that's why it's important. I would recommend, if you want to kind of do what you're asking, is instead of saying made in France, you could say imported from France if you actually imported it from France. It can be made anywhere, right? Or it can be, right? Or
did you get the question right? They're asking, can they lie on the product that is not Chinese?
No, they can't. Not on the product. But what I'm saying is depending on if they really want to brand it in France, like you can import, like for example, like you can import German beer or something like that, right? And it's imported by a different company. So it's sold in the United States, but it's imported by a different
Do you
company.
mean like if you produce the product in China, but your company, who is importer, is in Germany?
Well, you're right. So Estee Lauder, right?
So
Estee Lauder is a
you
French company.
Imported by German company, like that, what you can write. It's not the same like made in there.
You still need to have the country of origin on the
Yeah.
product.
Anyway,
it
you're
still
still
has
gonna have
to
to
say
have
made
the
in
certificate.
China.
You're still gonna have to order.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But
I don't
you're
see a
talking
way around
about,
it.
but you're talking about labeling and branding now, versus the actual origin.
Okay. We have a lot of questions about products like a special cargo. So people are asking, what can you tell about like this special cargo, like clearance for goods with batteries, medical goods, dietary supplements, jewelry, toys, and Bluetooth. Everything will go with Bluetooth. We can go like one by one.
Okay.
We start with the goods with the batteries. And there are some questions about the toys for adults.
Yes. All right, I got you. Yeah, we have customers that actually
Good,
do that.
good, good,
we have
good.
customers that do that now, actually.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
good, good.
Yeah, we do. Anyway, it's a lot.
Okay,
Just for
let's
the
start,
record.
let's start with
It's
the
a lot of
good.
vibrators in a 40-foot
Yeah,
container.
so that can be a good, the good one. Toys for adults can have batteries, and
Well, okay, so I'm
At
gonna
the same time.
I'm gonna make a general, yeah,
Okay.
and then she can be specific.
Okay.
But each one of those products, it makes a lot of sense to be specific about. So, for example, supplements, you're going to need FDA, right? And you're going to need XYZ for this specific thing. So it's hard to answer an all-encompassing question with all those different products. Any battery, right? Lithium or otherwise, it's considered hazardous, and you're going to need an MSDS. Right, and it's possible to do with toys for adults with the batteries in. You just have to get your MSDS because there's batteries in that container now, not
and
just
the
not just
MSDS the
plastic.
supplier provides.
Supplier's got to supply the MSDS and the packing information of it. Okay.
Is there any ways to different kind of ways to ship? Because if you have a big cargo like 10,000 pieces of some toys, and you cannot go via express or
Yeah, air is too expensive. Yeah.
too expensive. Can they deliver it by sea with the batteries, with the MSDS certificates?
Yes.
If it's the battery like power bank.
Yes.
Okay. Because
You just
lots
have
of
to, right?
lots of people are asking
Just
about
clear
that,
customs
and all the
regularly.
time we're repeating these questions.
Yeah.
So the way of delivering doesn't really matter.
No.
Okay, good. We
And
can
there are
do
no
that.
special requirements as far as customs is concerned. It's just personal massagers and toys, plastic toys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like that we should use them with personal massagers.
That's how
That's
I
what it
used
is.
to
Yeah, it's classified.
classify
Personal
it as
massage.
personal
That's
massagers.
the way how you call it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's part of the, it's part of the classification, and similarly, like medical goods, you're going to have different things involved. Usually, anything that's going to be consumed or touches the human body, right, is going to be a little bit tougher to import. There's going to be higher requirements to do that, FDA certifications, etc.
And more expensive, actually.
And more expensive.
More work, more expensive.
Exactly.
Right, with the medical stuff, you need the device listing and the registration numbers for everything.
Yeah.
What about jewelry?
All right. Now this one's a little bit tricky because it depends on how the jewelry is imported. Meaning, is it loose, like diamonds, for example, right? Maybe we're talking about diamonds, maybe we're not. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Shine bright.
right? Exactly. Sure. Right. I get the habit. So, if it's loose, there's a different classification than if it's mounted and it becomes jewelry. So you have loose stones and you have jewelry. which
No,
is- which
we
is
are
two
talking
different
about
things.
jewelry, not
So straight
stones.
jewelry,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So there, and she's actually more of an expert than me. But if you
Right.
want to, well, the key is how much you're going to import, right? So if you're just going to import a few diamonds that have a value of less than $2,500, then it's personal effects, and it's
No, we are talking about the commercial.
yeah. So if it's commercial and it's bigger lots, then the seller in the United States, the importer or the person that's gonna resell it, has to be authorized registered dealer.
If there is no dealer, they sell it on a marketplace like Amazon or any other marketplace.
Okay, so you're saying you're gonna bring in diamonds and Amazon's the dealer,
Okay,
right?
I am the truck driver from New Zealand and bought some stuff in China like silver watches or whatever, the earrings or something like that. And I want to sell it in the United States on my own website or via marketplaces like Amazon or Walmart or whatever. How to deal with it with the import to United States.
We'd have to become a registered dealer to import the jewelry.
Yeah.
I'm the one who making it by my own name. I'm not buying it in Tiffany's and selling it on Amazon. That's my own name.
Yeah, this is what I would recommend, and because jewelry is such a high value thing, and the whole reason they require registered dealers is because they want it certified and promise that it's from a reputable place, right? It's not a blood diamond, it's not some sort of fake thing or all that stuff. So most of this is really to prevent a lot of smuggling and stuff like that. The requirement is from the Department of Homeland Security. Okay, so it's very, again, like when you talk about jewelry, it's going to be even a higher microscope, right, on what you're doing. So the registered dealer, in a situation like this, what I would recommend is that we really dig into the detail of what the jewelry is, right, and what you're trying to do and how to go about it. And it's probably going to include, or it should include, probably a consult with the US CBP or the Department of Homeland Security and ask them specifically, right, I want to import XYZ for XYZ purpose. How do you recommend that I go about such a thing?
Okay,
You know?
got
Yeah.
it, got it.
Yeah, it's not something you just want to kind of wing it up. You don't want to improvise on jewelry, right? Because then plus if it gets confiscated, it's very valuable as well.
Okay, so basically the adult toys,
Go for it, man.
you clear like personal massages.
I had a customer that was importing it for many, many years, and we always did it personal massages and plastic toys, depending
And plastic
on, you know,
toys.
not all of them massage.
What is the duty rate?
I don't remember. Plastic toys, I think, is nothing.
Nothing.
The massages, I really don't remember. I would have to look.
Друзья, у вас есть возможность значит, заняться отличной нишей по импорту игрушек для взрослых в Америку. There is no code, HS code for the rubber dick.
Right.
There is nothing like that.
Plastic toy.
There is nothing like that in the customs declaration. Okay. There is only one black Jamaican guy, you know, in the customs who knows how to determine the HS code for that.
You know there's an HS code website, right? You can just
Yes,
look at
exactly.
it.
Yes, yeah, you can
just
have a
look
look
it
and
up.
check. Yes.
Because at the end of the day, it's your responsibility. But then you take that, you can go to your broker and you go, hey,
Yeah.
I think it should be this.
What are the consequences if the importer, actually the customer, who gonna import the product in the United States, they cut the invoice?
Right. Well, we talked about that already. That's the consequence.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly what the customs can do and cannot do.
Okay.
If they just cutting the value
The value exactly.
of it, they'll just issue the fine to the importer. They'll do the audit and
What
issue the
account
fine.
can be the fines?
As far as monetary wise, I'm not sure. I would have to.
Okay.
I don't know the
and how
penalty
I have a
number.
question, how they prove that it is cut? It's China. Yes, I'm gonna sell it. Yes, I bought it for this price.
Because they know the value. That's
How they can know the value?
Like,
Did they call to factory?
no, because they know what it's worth. You
know
know,
what it's worth.
this cup. You know, it's a glass cup. It weighs this much. You're importing this many pieces. It should be worth $5, not 10 cents.
Okay.
So that's
got
how.
it.
Yeah.
they
So they
figure it
and they
out.
know, right?
They
and
have
all
the
these
census.
HTS codes they've already put in it. And also, they don't have to prove. This is not a court of law.
Okay.
Okay, they're the police, right? And their word is law. So if they decide that you've been cutting the invoice, you've been cutting the invoice.
And they will ask for proof. They'll ask, you know, for your purchase order,
Yeah.
your payments that you sent to the seller.
Yeah.
They ask for.
And then if you can't provide it, which you know you can't, there's your proof. The burden of proof is on you to prove it, not on them. And like I said, they can go. Most likely, what would happen is they would take the actual duty rate that should be applied, the highest possible duty rate that should be applied to the highest possible invoice amount, and then they would take that number, and then they would charge you that, plus additional fees, et cetera, for the hassle, right? Administrative fees and whatnot. So you get that, and again, then they can go back, and they will go back to every single invoice you've ever imported into the United States, right? And do the same exact thing to every single invoice, every single line item.
Got it.
Okay?
Got it.
Yeah.
What about the consequences if less or more goods are important than specified in the documents? One of the customers are asking.
On a piece count discrepancy,
Yes, exactly.
if it's accidental, right? Like you put down 246 and the document is 264, right? That's just a switch.
If it's 1,000 and 3,000.
Well, it's just you. I mean, if it happens once or twice, right? Then you say, and then you just basically refile the entry, and you match up the piece count. You say sorry, typo, made a
Just
mistake,
sorry.
whatever. Yeah, that's okay, right? Now, if you do it over and over again, it becomes a problem, and it can't get held. And remember, customs holds cost more money. So if there's a customs hold because of a piece count discrepancy, and if there's a piece count discrepancy, there's always going to be a customs hold, always. So then you're reliant on CBP to take the second entry, which will delay the process, right? And so meanwhile, where the expense really is in demurrage, right? So let's say you have an air freight shipment that came in, you have a piece count discrepancy, you get 2 days free at the airport, right?
Yeah,
So yeah,
and then you pay for each day.
yeah. So
I know, I paid already.
exactly. Yeah. So if customs, takes 10 days to approve it, you're going to have to pay for 8 days of storage at an airport, which can be very expensive.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So you want to try and obviously be as meticulous as you can be to avoid those kinds of fees. But usually a piece count issue is just a re-entry. So it's not the end of the world. There's not huge penalties other than maybe the delay in the process. And if you do it a lot or in succession, then it gives customs an opportunity to say, hey, you know what, I want to take a look at this container. That's the other part. So best case scenario when you have a piece count discrepancy is you go, it's a typo, I refile it, customs accepts it, and maybe there's a little bit of a delay, but not too bad. Worst case scenario, customs says, hey, wait a minute, this is way, way off, it doesn't look like a typo to me, I want to inspect the shipment, right? And then it becomes, okay, when can we get an inspector out there to inspect the shipment? 2 weeks from now, I can send an inspector to look at everything, right? Or a week from now, I can send an inspector. Inspector goes there, if they feel like it, what if they miss an appointment, which they do often, right? And then you have to reschedule the appointment, right? And now it's been 3 weeks, nobody's inspected the cargo, nobody signed off on it. Still, after they inspect it, they have to write it up, right? Send it back, clear it, okay, you can refile. And then so there can be extensive delays which will incur a lot of cost.
That's true. I know what you're talking about. What about the destruction? In which cases the custom have a right actually to hold the container or the part of the container? It doesn't really matter. Like exact cargo and terminate it without actually asking you for permission.
Many different reasons. Labeling wrong, restricted items that.
For wrong labeling, the customs have a right for.
And they make you relabel it.
For termination.
Let me put it this way: customs is God. Okay, if they
Запомните эту фразу.
they don't have to justify anything to you. Okay, you have to do the justifications to them. So if you mislabel it, then and customs has a problem with that, they can decide to destroy it right then and there. They usually don't, right?
They give you an opportunity to
yeah, they're going to
relabel
give you an opportunity to relabel it and stuff like that. But so customs is not under any requirement to do anything that
Explaining anything.
or explaining anything. So if they don't like the way the label looks for one reason or another, now they're going to hold to the regulations and the law, right? They're going to enforce the law. But as long as they're enforcing the law, then all the compliance and everything is on you. They don't have to give you an explanation. They don't have to do any of that. And then if it gets to the point where they don't, in a lot of cases, they'll just ask you to return the cargo, right? And you need to take this cargo that's not coming into the United States. You need to take it and you need to send it back to where it came from. And if you don't comply with that, then they have every right to take possession of the cargo and destroy the cargo.
Got it. Customs is you got it. I remember that.
Yeah.
We have another question from Facebook. How will the damage be compensated if the cargo is delivered in a damaged condition and cannot be sold on Amazon or any other different ways?
Okay. This is why I've said on more than one occasion. This is why insurance is so important, and this is why it's so important to insure your cargo if it has value over $500 per package. Okay? The total maximum liability for any carrier, ocean, air, whatever, is $500 per package. So that's the maximum. So if you have anything of value, you want to insure that, because carriers do not take responsibility for damage in excess of $500. They don't take any responsibility for delays. They don't take any responsibility for pretty much anything. And you are the responsible party as the importer or the exporter, whoever's owning the cargo and controlling the cargo. Your responsibility to take care of that. Also, if and when there is damage, let's say if your invoice and sale price is much bigger, it's like you have a very high margin product, so your invoice price is $1, but you're selling for $5, you will not be compensated unless you're insured for the retail value. Okay, you're not going to be compensated for the difference in invoice versus retail value. You will not be compensated unless it's insured specifically for the retail value.
Is it a big difference in the insurance, in the cost of insurance, if I want to secure it by insurance for my retail price that I sell, not the way I bought? Because actually, that's logic, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If I lost my cargo by not my mistake, and they don't really want to carry the responsibility of, I don't know, whatever happened with a ship or container or something, I would have money I supposed to have if I would sell the product, right?
Yeah. So standard insurance is going to be on invoice value, right? And it's a certain percentage of whatever the invoice value of that shipment is. I'm sure that if you talked to the insurance company, they would be willing to insure against the retail value depending on what it is and depending on how they felt about it. So it's an individual situation. They would have to, decide what their risk, what risk they're willing to accept in terms of retail value versus the insure, versus what they want to insure, and then they would rate it accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's an individual thing.
Yeah.
I should probably be paying them more money. What am I thinking? They're taking all this.
They're golden gods. They're my gods.
Yeah.
And you should pray. Oh, Pegasus, my God.
That is your value. I'm not bullshitting you. I mean, that's a huge. You're taking a huge amount of risk for them, right?
Okay.
So
you must say that they are responsible.
Absolutely.
Because we're gonna change the system. So last question is, if they want to try to sell something that is original but it's not original, they're just making illegal stuff of Beats headphones and iPhone and something like that, it is Dolce & Gabbana, that is not Dolce & Gabbana, and something like that. What are the consequences of import, and what actually is going on with all this stuff? Because I believe lots of things like that are selling in the United States. How all this stuff actually coming into the country?
Yeah.
So, and what are the responsibilities for the customers who are going to import this stuff?
Okay, so obviously, I mean, anybody that's doing that knows that they're doing something that's illegal, I believe, right? If you are, there's the trademark infringement part of it, right? Which you're obviously going to be sued by whoever it is that is the brand owner once they find out, and they will find out eventually. So even without any legal repercussions, you're probably going to be sued for a significant amount of money on the private side. Public side, as far as it being illegal, if you've imported more than $2,000 worth of goods, that constitutes grand theft, okay? And that's a significant amount of jail time, right? And I'm talking years and years of jail time, in addition to obvious fines and stuff like that. So it's fraud, right? And if you have imported, like I said, more than a certain amount, there can be considerable jail time involved if you're caught and proven, in this case, to be doing it knowingly. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and from your side to all people who are actually now thinking about a business online, and they really want to make some business in the United States, and they want to sell a lot by Amazon, eBay, different marketplaces. They want to build a good brand. They're not going to do something illegal. What will be your advice as an expert about import and all this stuff for them, how to follow the procedure and how to build the business the way in the long term, you know, making it successful years and years after?
Yeah. I think the most important thing, I would say three things, and they're actually, they're hard to do because I know when you're in business and you're trying to make money, you know, you're focused on the maximum profit that you can make. For me, anyway, also as a business person, number one, the most important thing is to think about a long-term view. Okay, money long-term is much better than money short-term. So you need to think long-term profitability, not short-term profitability. Oftentimes, okay, the cheapest option is the most expensive option. I say that a lot because it's true, because I've seen it happen over and over again. It's very, very important that the people that you're working with, the partners that you've chosen to work with, are also focused on long-term profitability, not short-term profitability. And when I mean, as a specific example, I mean, we're talking about customs brokerage. I understand the attractiveness, okay, of paying a duty rate that is less than what it should be, because maybe on this shipping you can save 5% duty, and I understand that, you know, maybe 5% duty, maybe that saves you a couple $100, and I can understand,
1,000
or 1,000, and I can understand the desire to do that. You make an extra $1,000, okay, that makes sense. Unfortunately, you have to gauge that with the risk that you're taking, right? And this is an individual decision that every business person needs to make. You need to attach that to the risk that you're taking, because maybe you can make an extra 1,000 today, maybe you can make an extra 1,000 on the second or third one, but if you get caught on the fourth one and it destroys your ability to do business, right? And then you have to pay all the money that you made back anyway, you haven't really gained anything. In fact, you've lost everything.
And you pay it back with interest.
And you pay it back with interest. So that is first, I mean, think long-term profitability, not short-term profitability, because it's longevity and consistency that makes money in the long term. That's how real business gets done and real business gets made. And yes, it takes a little bit longer, and yes, the guy next to you who might not be doing it the right way might look like he's making or doing better than you right now, but believe me when I tell you that all things come to light eventually, and in a long enough timeline everything evens out, and you need to have faith in what you're doing and the value that you're creating, and you need to stay with what is right, because that will save you money in the long term. And I understand it's not easy to do. Everybody wants an extra $500, an extra $1,000, but you have to think long term and be intelligent. So long term profitability is number one. I would say number two, I kind of already touched on it already. Consistency, be consistent with what you're doing. Stay with what works and be consistent. Try not to do everything. Try to do one thing or two things really, really well. And number three, make sure the partners that you have are working together with you in your best interest, right? They are good consultants. They are honest with each other. Your partners, nobody makes money alone. It takes a team of people that are working together, that can trust each other to have each other's best interests. And that's why it's really important to have long-term partners that you work with that are interested in mutually beneficial business relationships. They're not interested in short-term dollars. It's much better to think, again, as I said before, think long-term. Don't be what we call penny wise and dollar foolish. Think long-term. You work with your partners long-term. Consistency creates efficiency. Efficiency creates margin. So those are the things to think about. And I do think what you're doing is a great thing for your customers, consulting with them and working with them in the way that you are. I think you do a lot of things that are well outside the box of what a normal vendor would do.
Exactly.
So,
that's what we're trying to
yeah.
deliver to the idea that how to be over, the service. You give an extra, you get an extra after all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody says, they're your friend, they're your partner, we're going to do everything we can for you. But, you have to judge people by their actions, right? And you can tell, I think, after a short period of time, based on people's actions, if they're really interested in partnership or not, and doing what it takes to help each other through business. And you need to trust that more than anything else. And that's why you call it partner trade. I mean, you're interested in partnership and helping people grow the trade.
Exactly.
So I think that's
Exactly.
that's a good thing.
Before we say goodbye to everybody who watched this video, I know for many years you worked with China.
Mm.
And what you would say to those people who just started the business and they on the way to choose the rates from Chinese forwarders, from Chinese logistics companies, from Chinese helpers, because actually the suppliers making lots of business together with logistics companies inside of China.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I can understand the customers, they're choosing going there because first of all it's cheap, sometimes even cheaper. It's not all the time cheaper, more or less in the same price range, but it's just easier to pay one bill for the cargo, for the goods, and for shipment at the same time to the same person. But in the end of the day, from your point of years, and you have 1,000 containers each month, I believe, right?
Yeah.
From China to United States. What you would say for those people who are choosing to work with them or with somebody else?
Okay. It goes a little bit back to what I was saying before about choosing your partners. Again, you need to choose and work with partners that you can trust and have your best interests at heart. You are not going to be able to insert yourself into a partnership between a manufacturer and their freight forwarder in China. They have an existing relationship, and that relationship and that intention does not include you. Okay? They are there because they are working together and they are making money together, and you are the person that they're going to make money from. For me, and again, I do a lot of business in China, but you need to have a personal relationship with the person that is touching your cargo and touching it's the lifeblood of your business. Okay? Without the cargo getting to where it gets, you're not going to make sales, right? And you're going to lose a lot of money. So it kind of comes down to who are you going to trust with the lifeblood of your business? Are you going to trust somebody that you know, that you can touch, that you can speak to on the phone, that will do things to help you? Or are you going to trust somebody you've never met before, doesn't know who you are, and even if they did know who you are, probably doesn't care? And I also said before, cheapest is usually the most expensive, maybe not the first or second time, but eventually it becomes the most expensive. And that's precisely the reason why. They will be able to offer you cheap. I mean, we all know China is all about cheap. Okay? That is the standard operating procedure of Chinese manufacturers, Chinese freight forwarders. But again, if something goes sideways, and this is logistics, so something always goes sideways eventually. Okay, nothing goes perfect every time. You are going to have issues, period. The way to separate your vendors and the way to judge your vendors is not when things are going well. Okay, it's not the 90% of the time things are going to go well. The 10% of the time when things don't go well, that's when your business is on the line. That's when things are going to get really, really expensive.
Thank you for answering, and absolutely agree with you about the opinion about to whom work with, and especially about the way how the model of building business in the long term. I believe that's why lots of businesses are American businesses, because people are thinking much more for the long period of business lifetime value, I would say. There. Друзья, я хочу вам сказать спасибо за то, что досмотрели это видео до конца. Я не знаю, как вы, я очень вдохновился нашими экспертами из Америки. Очень много полезной информации мы сегодня услышали. Я надеюсь, что она была также полезна и для вас. Мы постарались ответить на часть вопросов, которые вы задавали нам в Фейсбуке. Вот. Конечно, еще очень много вопросов касательно темы импорта, растаможки в США остается открытыми. Вы можете задавать эти вопросы к нам в Facebook, в группу Partner Trade, писать нам в группу, писать нам на сайт, мы будем рады на них ответить. Ну, либо звоните, оставляйте свои заявки по доставке грузов из Китая, если вы что-либо продаете в США, на Амазоне, либо на других площадках. Matthew, Veronica, thank you very much for this interview, for this video. That was really helpful for us. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.